Welcome back to KSP's hardest difficulty. Well, at least as hard as you can make without mods anyway. And today we're just going to jump straight into the action. But first, as you probably noticed on the title cards of this episode, it's episode 3.5, not 4 and not 3. Well, you're probably wondering, why is it 0.5? Well, there's still going to be some new math in this video, and the missions we carry out will be crucial for future exploration, especially interplanetary. But we're not actually continuing on to new planets and moons today. Minmus will be in the next episode, and it's shaping up to be a very exciting video. But for today's video, we're aiming to build a relay satellite network, and to revisit the Mun to complete some more science. So make sure to stay tuned, as next week we're going to attempt a Minmus mission. But I shall now pass you over to live commentary me. Wait, hang on, I almost forgot. 20-second recap time. Tonight, very small ports, complete and never derivative in rule 4. So 20.71 degrees back at the big bird looking thing. And oh dear. Oh, shut up now. 20. Slow us down just a bit. Yes! Right, Bill. I know you went to Oxford, but Bill and Jeb are going to have some hurt bottoms. Okay, so a cheeky bit of maths now. What is a relay satellite? Essentially, a relay satellite bounces a signal. It takes in a signal, which is usually weaker, and then transmits the same signal at a greater strength. This is useful in two ways. Option A, as seen here, it can bounce the signal around a body, so that the communication is maintained with the spacecraft when the body is eclipsing the communication channel to Kerbal. Or, option B, it provides a booster to the signal, allowing us to communicate over a greater distance where the spacecraft communication device is weaker or hindered by an atmosphere, as will be in the case in the Duna mission. For a communication satellite, it is ideal if it is in a geostationary orbit above Kerbal, as this ensures that the satellite is constantly above the ground-based communication site, and so will always be in contact with the relay, preventing communication blackouts. But how do we get it into a geostationary orbit? First, we need to look at Kerbal's radius and rotational speed at the surface. Kerbal rotates at 179.49 meters per second. I can find the circumference of Kerbal's equator using 2 times pi times radius. I can then divide the circumference by the speed to determine that Kerbal rotates about its axis every 22,594.93 seconds, or about every 6 hours. Then, using this, I can determine Kerbal's angular velocity, which is essentially how many degrees, or in this case radians, it rotates through every second. I will need this as my spacecraft in orbit must also have the same angular velocity as at the surface, so that it maintains a constant position above the surface. The angular velocity of the surface of Kerbal is 2.9 times 10 to the minus 4. I can use velocity is equal to radius times angular velocity and equate that to our orbital velocity equation to create an equation which determines at what radius from the centre of mass of the body our spacecraft will have an angular velocity which we can determine. Then, plugging in all our values into our new fancy equation, we can determine that we need a radius of 3463459 metres, or an orbital height of 2,863.5 kilometres to give our craft a geostationary orbit, given the orbit is perfectly equatorial. Bwash. We can then determine the velocity at both orbits in order to determine our delta V to reach the geostationary orbit. However, after doing some thinking, dangerous I know, I realised that for now I'd like to try and save some costs on our satellite launches, as we've now landed on the Mun, so public interest in the operation is decreasing and we're losing some funding. To do this, I'm going to combine multiple missions into one. Another mission I would like to carry out is surface height analysis of the Mun and Kerbal, using radar to determine viable landing sites. So if we launch our craft into a polar orbit, as it orbits Kerbal and the Mun, the surface will pass beneath it and we can collect surface height data as well as creating a semi-viral relay network for our mission to Minmus. So with all that out of the way, I shall now pass you over to live commentary me so that we can have a look at the missions for today. Hello everybody and welcome to the live commentary. If you don't live in the UK, you won't know how incredibly hot it is, but I do because I live in the UK and that's why the videos have been coming out a little bit slower. Anyway, we'll jump straight into the build. So basically what you see me building here is a new satellite. The primary purpose of the satellite is that it's a relay satellite, and then secondary to that I want it to have surface scanning abilities. And you can see me here adding the radar. Essentially what the radar does is it flies over and it pings the ground and looks at the time delay from sending out a signal to receiving it back, and that essentially tells it the height from itself, and then you can do some very simple math to determine the height above that from the centre of mass. yeah, and that is the secondary purpose of the satellite. You can also see that there's another scanning feature there that gives us ore and important location scanning. And what I've done for this one is I have used the original Series 1, the launch vehicle that first orbited the Mun, and I have basically just stuck the satellite on top. The reason I've done that is because I want to put Valentina Kerman in it, and the reason I'm doing that is because I want to start training up some more astronauts. Because I realise on all of my missions so far, I've used these same 2 astronauts, and at some point I will need to, expand out a little bit just in case we have an accident. And I've called this one Iris 1, Iris being the goddess of communication in Greek mythology, and also vision, because we're scanning stuff. Anyway, I shall be quiet for the launch. So a pretty good launch there. You can see there's a small problem with stage, and that initial internal engine didn't ignite, and then I've got to reduce that power a little bit because the thrust rate ratio on this craft is really good, but we don't want to burn through all our fuel too low in the atmosphere. And you can see me here, so every time we have done our ascent profile, usually we have tilted over to the right hand side, but this time we're tilting away from the observer. We're doing this because we want to go into a polar orbit. Now, we've seen enough ascent profiles at this point. They're pretty self-explanatory. We have the side boosters. They remove themselves from the central stage using some rocket. I think it's called it's the something cross. I can't remember what it's called. It's the something cross. Anyway, and then we continue upwards in our polar orbit. Now, if you look at the prograde indicator, it's a little bit off. I mean, it's good enough. I just want a roughly polar orbit. I was aiming for around about 200 kilometers. I wanted the higher orbit so that I could have my spacecraft in the correct orientation to be a good relay and also scanning satellite. So it was a bit of a compromise, but I thought it was going to be really boring if this video was just relay satellites, so don't worry. Later on we should be going to the Mun, but for now it's just a relay satellite. Anyway, when I was doing the launch, I was sort of thinking, maybe putting the satellite on top of the crew module probably wasn't the best, because in the event of emergency, that's a very large mass to actually pull away from the rocket. And doing some little mental maths afterwards, I was like, I don't think that the escape module would have had a greater thrust to weight ratio than the actual rocket itself. So I reckon in the event of emergency, I wouldn't have been able to, but it's fine. It's fine. Because it didn't go wrong. And that's the best part, it didn't go wrong. Because if it had gone wrong, we would have been in a lot of trouble. Anyway, moving on. You can see me here, I'm accelerating to basically our apoapsis, and then from apoapsis I will then burn again, and that will circularize us at around about 200 kilometers, trying to aim for a nice circular orbit. And then I'll talk a little about the construction of the satellite. Solar panels for energy, I think I put enough batteries on there so that it should be able to survive whilst it's not in contact with the sun. But then again, I have got a very power consuming radar and relay feature, so there's the potential that I haven't done that math correctly, and actually in order to do that I will need to turn off one of the 2 features in order for it to continue functioning whilst on the dark side. But this me being good at maths is not as we assume I'm not. Anyway, and you can see me how I'm just performing some final checks, just basically circularising ourselves with a really nice circular orbit and doing a nice. So basically, before we go, I need to check A, is that actually charged? So yes, we have some electric charge. B, is the radar working? We'll start the radar scanning, and at some point I should be able to show the screen that you get. My initial plan for this was to try and replicate the first communication satellite, but that was a TV satellite from America to Japan. What was it called? I can't remember what it's called. I think it's called something like Relay 1. I was like, that's so boring. I'm not going to do a TV satellite. Let's do something a bit more interesting. And I went for the sort of mixed sort of thing. That's quite cool. And what you'll notice here is I have a ridiculous amount of delta V. So that, of course, that Soyuz style ascent module had way too much delta V. I mean, it took us to the Mun and back, so of course it had way too much, but I mean, it's better to have too much than not enough, I guess. And there we go, we have detached our satellite module, and we can now begin spinning back around in order to return to Kerbal. Yeah, all in all, a very simple mission. Really, really simple mission. There wasn't really too much that I had to do. It was literally create 200 km orbit, detach our satellite, deorbit, return to Kerbin, wada bing, wada bang, wada boom, all done. And now you can see we're very sped up, deorbiting our spacecraft. So whilst we do that, I could have actually nothing to talk about. I should talk about the weather. Holy moly, it has been warm. It has been too warm for anyone. If somebody goes, I was okay, no you weren't, because it was too... I would sit still at my job and I would sweat. And I was just like, it's not compatible with humans. So anyway, of course what I did, because it was too hot, is I went cycling. I love cycling. It's really good fun. Get to go really fast. That cooled me down a little bit, going doing some descents. So we don't talk about the climbs. The climbs didn't happen. Oh yeah, and something I realised here whilst we were descending the atmosphere, to cut back to that, actually KSP, is the original Series 1, I had to jettison the fairing in order to activate the parachutes. Didn't think to correct that one. Yeah. Here is our satellite in orbit. So that all went very well. To be fair, for a mission which I have done, usually they go quite wrong. So that went quite well. That might be some foreshadowing for our next mission, but you know what? We won't worry about that. But yeah, so I went cycling. That's been great. Loads of outdoor stuff. But yeah, working in that heat is absolutely ridiculous. Anyway, moving on to our second spacecraft. So, as I said earlier, I want to put one round Kerbin and one round the Mun. The purpose of the one round Kerbin is primarily to be a relay to the one around the Mun, and also to do some surface scanning. This one that's going around the Mun, its primary purpose is to do surface scanning, and then acts as a relay for our mission to Minmus. Why do I need surface scanning with the Mun? Well, when we did our first mission to the Mun, it was pretty lucky where we landed. If we had landed somewhere else, and it had been more slopey, official term slopey, or steep, then, well, you know, we wouldn't have landed. So the idea for this was to send a scanning and relay satellite to the Mun, and then use that to survey and find some good place to land. This is something which actually I should have done before, keyword there, I landed on the Mun. Didn't do it, should have. We live and learn. We obviously won't do that for Minmus because, I mean, Minmus has those massive ice flats, so it should be fine. But yeah, you can see the building here. I've made the rocket larger. Get some more fuel. The initial, actually, I'll flash it on the screen. Flash. The initial plan for this satellite was to make it the Luna 1, the Soviet satellite which first orbited the Mun. That was the initial plan. I looked at that satellite and I sort of went, ooh, bit ugly, innit? I mean, it's alright. But I was like, well, sorry, we can do better. So I went with mine. I think in the end mine turned out to be even uglier, and so I should have just gone with the Luna 1. Anyway, I'm now building the main launch vehicle. Unlike previously, I've decided to make my own launch vehicle, but because I was being lazy, so we've gone to the Mun many times now. I can figure out how to make a launch vehicle without, you know, I'll do it in the background. I'd had some TV on. I was making a launch vehicle. It'll be alright. Foreshadowing. Yeah, I mean, it'll be alright. That first stage, you're like, that looks like I'd use some more fuel. It didn't need it. What I've done is I've given myself way too much Delta V. So Iris 1 and Iris 2, not related at all. But anyway, I shall now be quiet for the launch. Oh, we've had a problem. Yeah, so I realised that I need to decrease the thing before I launch it, so I was like, well, that's a bit anticlimactic. Anyway, we're launching now. And we've really sped it up because, you know, ascent profiles at this point are getting a little bit boring. Something you might begin to notice is that we're spinning a little bit. And I was doing quite a lot to try and control this, and I realised, I don't have a lot of gimbal control here. I need an equatorial orbit because this is trying to go to the Mun. So before we did polar, this time we're trying to get equatorial because I want to go to this isn't. That's not equatorial. Oh, so what I've done, the skipper has barely any gimbal control. The RD-107 equivalent of the Kodiak and KSP have no gimbal control, because actually on real Soyuz rockets, what they do is they have the main RD-107 rocket engines, like the 4 bells, then they have the booster ones, and then on outside of that, they then have more smaller engines, and I think that's the equivalent of the Cub. I'm not sure. You have to correct me in the comments, but essentially the purpose of those is they have variable thrust, and that is what acts as the gimbal. So there's no gimbal control on the bells themselves, the main engines, but the variable thrust of the outer engines is what then gives you gimbal control. So, well, I haven't done that. So now my rocket has become an intercontinental ballistic missile, and this whole thing I've been saying about, oh, I'll try and save costs by doing combined missions, well, that's gone down the drain because, well, I'm about to kill a fish. I say a fish. Probably quite a few fishes. Oh dear. Right, so now we need to fix it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put very small little engines on the outside, and what that will do is that will give me more gimbal control, and I should be able to control the rocket a little bit better. For some reason. Oh, I thought I was going to give myself off fuel. No, I've given myself a remote command unit, which hopefully should give me some more. Was that? No, that was an action control wheel. That should give me more control. Anyway, now time for Iris 3. Oh yeah, I want to make it more stable. I've forgotten this. I did this mission a while ago. Anyway, Iris 3. Zooming into the launch pad. Quite very cinematic. Ooh, very cool. I have nothing to commentate here because we've changed nothing about the rocket, apart from giving it more. So you'll see them here. So yeah, you'll see those smaller rockets on the outside, and basically their purpose is to give me some gimbal authority of the rocket, and you will see that my ascent is now much more stable, and I have a greater control over it, which is good. We like to have control over things when we're doing rockets, otherwise they become bombs. Anyway, this is yet again another simple ascent profile, very good speed, early gravity term. We then jettison those external boosters. They get pushed away by a very small solar rocket, and if you look at my surface velocity, you'll notice it's not really going up. Yeah, so a small problem I had with this is I hadn't used the same main stage engine that I usually do, although I'll use a cheaper one, saving costs and all that, and this has ended up having a really bad thrust to weight ratio. So, ladies and gentlemen, and people who identify as other than that, because I want to like to be inclusive, I have finally reached the point where I have calculated my thrust to weight ratio incorrectly. It's happened. Ugh. It's completely fine. So, if you look at my Apple axis and my current, I'm basically not accelerating past it. So, right, I need to stage. Go to my upper stage, which is a cheater. Maybe. Oh, it's a cheater. It's a cheater engine. And well, my cheater has much greater thrust ratio. That allowed me to actually accelerate my rocket much faster and hopefully put us into an orbit. However, the cheater doesn't actually get that many ignitions. So it gets, by standard, 1. So, and I've already turned it off. So we're not going to have many. We are not going to have, so we'll see how it goes. It'll be fine. What is the worst that could possibly happen? Foreshadowing again. Anyway, so what I've done to try and save costs is I've saved costs too much, and now it's all going wrong. This is pretty much turning into the Russian space program, which is not something you would like to try and replicate. Well, I mean, they were very good bits of the Russian space program, aren't they? The Soyuz rocket, the most reliable rocket ever. But then you have the M1, and that made the largest man-made explosion for a very long time. Then you have... was it largest man? No, not largest man-made explosion. That was an ammunition depot in the UK. Ooh, I'm not sure. I'd have to check. Let me know in the comments. But yeah, so this engine has now failed. So cost-saving measures have cost us more money. Weird how that tends to happen. Anyway, so I've realised actually, look at my delta V in main upper stage. That gives me way more delta V down these. So actually, I could do my transfer to the MUN with that with that final stage engine. What you also notice, so 20.71 degree angle from the prograde direction of my spacecraft to the MUN. If you actually measure it, I'm a little bit shallow. it's not the end of the world, but it does mean that our encounter will be later, if at all. And that would be funny if I missed. After all this, I've gone to the Mun, what, twice now? This would be our actually, this will only be our third time going. Wouldn't it be funny if I missed? doing the cheap mission, which I was trying to save money on, I miss. But that shouldn't happen. Anyway, something that kept happening whilst I was doing this is the Iris 1 was running out of battery. So essentially I hadn't calculated the energy it had correctly, and so as it was going onto the dark side it was turning off. So what I did is I very quickly flipped back to it, turned off the radar and the relay, and so now it's just orbiting, so I can go up and fix that. Anyway, we do get an encounter with the Mun, which is lovely, but I need to do some adjustments. So usually when we do our encounter with the Mun, we are essentially looking for an equatorial orbit, which is basically what you should get, seeing as we burn from an equatorial plane. But this time I actually want a polar orbit, where it is sort of like, how do I describe this? A polar orbit, like you're about to see me do, where it should always be in contact with Kerbin. The reason the Mun rotates about its axis, so it spins about its axis, so that should be fine. We'll still be able to surface scan. And also, if it's facing Kerbin, then that means it should always be in communication. It will act as a much better relay compared to if it was an equatorial orbit, where A, I wouldn't be able to scan all of it, and B, half the time it's spent out of communication with Kerbin and would be a useless relay satellite. So I've gone for a polar orbit. But this way, not the other way. So it could be, if you draw a line from Kerbin to the Mun, it could either be parallel to that line or perpendicular. If it was parallel, then half the time it would also spend out of communications and be a rubbish relay satellite. If it's perpendicular like it is now, then it'd be a good relay satellite because it would always be in communication with the Mun, if that makes sense. This time I'm aiming for a 300 kilometre orbit, because I finally actually read the specific height for both of the scanning equipment I had on it, and it said that likes to be in a 300 kilometre orbit. I hadn't realised this before. I'm aiming for a 200 kilometre orbit, so that's like, I'll do what it wants. I'll go for 300 kilometres. Anyway, you can see me doing a radial out, probably radial out burn to increase my orbital height to 300 kilometres, and then I will do my circularization burn, and we have plenty of delta V. By now, I have done enough orbital velocity calculations for you guys to be able to do them yourself at home if you'd like. I don't need to flash them up on the screen, we've done so many of them. But to be completely honest with you, for this mission, ballparked it. Didn't actually do any calculations for this one, hence why the rocket failed the first time, and the second time it's been a bit rubbish. Completely ballparked the figures. I went, be good enough. Cost saving. We won't bother turning on the calculator. That requires money, and we're trying to save money. Silly me, shouldn't have done that. But anyway, you can see my final circularization into a 300 kilometre orbit. Get a scanning equipment on, and essentially what that's going to do is it will allow us to scan the surface and find some flat bits or some interesting features for us to go to when we do, because we're going to the Mun after this. We're good to land in a different biome, so we get more science. If we land in the same biome, we won't get any extra science, and it'll be a complete waste of money, and I would have tried to save all this money and then immediately gone and spent it all again and wasted it. But, money's not important, is it, really? Well, it is. I quite like money. It'll be alright. We will maintain good stuff. Anyway, you can see it's basically circularizing now. And that is pretty much it for Iris 3. Ripperoni Iris 2, you will be forgotten quite quickly because it was a boring mission which failed. Out of all of our missions, what we've had, we have Hermes 1, Hermes 2, Series 1, 2, 3 and 4, Iris 1, 2 and 3. We've only had 2 failures out of 6, 8. Ooh. No, we've had 9. 2 out of 9. That's not bad, is it? What's that as a failure rate? I'm trying to think. I can't do mental maths. I'll have to do it on my calculator. Hang on. 2 over 9. 22% failure rate, not bad. Okay, so we're wasting absolutely no time at all. We're going to jump straight into Series 5 because I want to test out that brand new relay network and I am very, very, very excited. So, well, here we go for the Series 5 launch. This launch vehicle is the exact same as Series 4, which took us to the moon and back. So let's see how this goes. I'll be quiet for the launch. Let you watch it. You ready? And Series 6 has a malfunction. Oh no. That's not up. Okay, I bought... Hang on. That's not... That one's... Oh. Oh no. Oh. On this... Oh. What on earth has just happened? The engine is still firing. There's fuel everywhere. Our crew capture has fallen onto the main deck. The engines are still going. There is a huge amount of unburned fuel. That is a massive explosion waiting to happen. But luckily it stayed upright. That's good. Hang on. That's tipping it. Oh no. Oh no. Oh. Oh. How on earth have they just survived that? Anyway, that didn't happen at all, so we're going to go straight to Series 6. What even was Series 5? I think we just pretty much skipped it, right? That didn't happen. We saw nothing. Series 6, the exact same launch vehicle. Once again, absolutely no changes have been made. Because Series 5, that didn't happen. I don't... Do you remember it? Because I don't... If you guys don't remember, I don't remember either. So that's completely fine. Anyway, I'll be quiet for the launch. And as always, Series 6 takes off and goes upwards because that's what happens with rockets, right? And they never go down because of engine failures. Honestly, I can't believe that engine failure. That is ridiculous. But what's more concerning is the launch escape system then didn't have the thrust to rate ratio to pull us away from the rocket. And I spoke about that earlier with Iris 1, where with the increased mass of the satellite. But it never occurred to me that the increased mass of our lander would require a greater thrust to rate ratio from our launch escape system. That thought never occurred to me. Actually, using the exact same rocket again without any changes probably wasn't the best idea. Jeb and Bill's union. I don't know. Do astronauts have a union? That's actually a really interesting question. Do astronauts have a union? Imagine being the astronaut union lead. That would be really cool. I don't know. I'll have to. If you guys know about an astronaut union, let me know because that'd actually be really interesting. I don't feel like there would be. Maybe they would, because I know I'm going to have to research that. If you guys know, let me down in the comments. That'd be really cool, actually. Anyway, I've been completely distracted by astronaut unions. We're now circularizing ourselves into an orbit. We've done this so many times now, especially with the series. We've done 6 series launches. I mean, 6 in inverted commas. 2 of them have been failures, actually. 1/3 of our series launches have ended in failures, which isn't great. Basically, the only reason we're doing this launch is to get more science, to be completely honest with you. I want a little bit more science before I go to Duna. We're going to get loads from Minimus, but I want to be able to fully max out on communication, heat shields, electronics and science before I go to Duna, because the likelihood of me being able to make a craft which can take crew to Duna and get them back is very low. I feel like I could definitely get crew to Duna with some of the maths I've been working. Definitely I could get them there. My bigger worry is getting them back. And I mean, I know. Unfortunately, we don't have Matt Damon. If we had Matt Damon, I don't know. He was Iron Man in that film, wasn't he? When he had to get his suit to go back to the main craft to return to Earth. But I mean, we do have Jeb. Jeb pretty much is Matt Damon. If you don't get that reference, you don't get that reference. If you do, please let me know you get that reference, because that is a hell of a reference. Anyway, we're now completing our transfer to the Mun, 20.71 degrees ahead of the progress direction of spacecraft where the Mun should be. We want a big burn, approximate final velocity 3087 meters a second. Ours is going to be bigger because of our orbit wasn't perfectly circular. I think I was also burning in the most inefficient way possible, but you know, we'll brush over. We have loads of delta V. Actually, we don't have loads of delta V, because when I made the series rocket, I made it exactly to spec. Genuinely, we don't have lots of leftover delta V for this mission. We have what we need, and that's pretty much it. Anyway, yeah, so we're going to the Mun. It's a repeat of the Mun mission from last episode. We're going to a different biome, getting more science, that we're more prepared to go to Minmus next episode. Episode 3.5 it is preparation. This is the preparation episode. It is exciting. We've got a new relay network, which we might see. There we go. It's now working. So the signal is taking a shorter path to the relay and then to us. And because it's a shorter path, it's more efficient for it to get rebounded from the relay, which can increase signal strength. So actually our signal to the KSC will be stronger because it's taken an alternate path. That's something to do with hypotenusers, or longest lengths of triangles, basically. Maths, ooh, fancy science, anyway. But yeah, it is more efficient for it to go through the relay, stronger signal, better communication. That's pretty good, we like that. Yeah, so you can see us here, we've got our encounter with the Mun, which means that we can now see the how it's going to affect our craft, and we need to make some minor adjustments. A, so we don't crash into the Mun. We want to land on the Mun, but not at 1,000 meters a second, and then I want to do an inclination change. Oh, don't even mention inclination changes. I'm not looking forward to that at all. I have spent so long trying to figure out how to do an inclination change and actually figuring it out, because of course my information doesn't give my orbit's inclination. Oh, having to work that out, it makes my brain hurt. But more on that next video, and that'll be exciting because you'll just get to see me slam my head into a table for about 20 minutes trying to figure it out. So we go to the periapsis, and of course we do a retrograde burn. That's going to slow our spacecraft down and bring us into a nice circular-ish orbit. I think we don't go fully circular because we've run out of delta V in this circularization stage which we have. That's alright. We don't need to be perfectly circular. And you'll still see that our... Oh, here's where it works. You see, we don't actually have a direct line of sight to the KSC because we're being eclipsed by the Mun. Fancy word. Basically meaning Mun in way, cannot get signal, goes through relay, even though path longer. Exciting. And also the relay satellite has a stronger antenna than we do, so it's better at receiving, and then it can also rebound to us, which is pretty cool. Anyway, round about here I then go, you know what, that'll do, lads, and I start my deorbit burn. So we're now on a collision course with the Mun, which is what we want because we are going to slow down, hopefully, before we land on the Mun, and so we'll land. Only the best scientific commentary here. Anyway, yeah, pretty much the exact same descent profile. Last time, I mean, we're going from a greater height, but that shouldn't matter because we have I think we have about 100 meters a second to play with, so we have absolutely loads of room. And this time I've decided to try and land in a crater, new biome, which should be interesting. Basically, if you don't know, I mean, I feel like you've watched the video you've watched. If you haven't played KSP before, KSP on planets and moons have different biomes, and the different biomes mean that you can get science from them. So you get a set amount of science for certain experiments on certain bodies, and you can get it in space, low, high, and then in all the different biomes. So basically, although we've landed on the Mun once, because we're landing in a different biome, that means that we can then get more science, which is pretty freaking cool. Because it means that although we've got a spacecraft that can go there, we just keep going there and getting more and more science. Anyway, yeah, we're beginning our landing profile now. It's really not that complicated. Who could possibly mess up a landing? Imagine messing up a landing. That'd be stupid. Or cliff. That's a pretty cool cliff, actually. Do you know what? I could use that. I could use that cliff for my my thumbnail. That'd be pretty cool, wouldn't it? Oh, darling. That'd be really, really cool. Hang on. I'm going quite far. Oh no, our altitude's really low. I got distracted by the cliff. I did a full ADHD thing. I got distracted by the cliff. And I'm going too quick. Oh no. Oh no. Jeb, this is the end. No. This is the end. I can't believe I've done this. What on earth is going on in KSP? Genuinely, what happened here is I got distracted by a cliff. How I got distracted by a cliff? To be fair, that makes a lot of sense, knowing me. But how the spacecraft then went, don't worry, we've got it handled. and then decided that it wanted to compress itself like a spring. Maybe it's how I've made it. But it landed at... How nothing blew up blows my mind. Anyway, you can now see I've got the new fancy solar panels. So I decided to put new solar panels on because that'd be really cool. What I forgot to do was put the new fancy ladders. Anyway, I looked at the cheats menu. No, I didn't have any cheats on. I thought, there's no way I've accidentally turned on unbreakable parts. There's no way. But I had to check and I hadn't. Pure luck. No, not luck. Skill. Only the greatest KSP players could possibly play the hardest difficulty like I do. Yeah. Anyway, I've got the new solar panels. I thought it looked cooler. That's my husband one. Didn't put the new ladders on, of course. Why would I? I have a memory of it. I have a memory like a sieve. Or the memory of a goldfish. Cliff. I've got my cliff picture in the background now. Cliff bar. that should be the title of the video. It's just Jeff holding a cliff bar. Well, if only I actually had a Photoshop and I didn't just use Paint 3D for my thumbnails. Anyway, what we're doing now, well, I've started off the science. It takes a while for it to go, so I'm just going to have a little wander around, basically. Take some screenshots. Yeah, and whilst I've got some time, I shall talk about something else. If you are still here after 36.5 minutes of episode 3.5, you will now know that I have reached a YouTube partner. I have got sufficient number of subscribers and I've satisfied some criteria. I've got YouTube partners, which now means I can create YouTube memberships. Now, should I do this? For these types of videos, which people, for some reason, sit down and watch. Hang on, I think we're about to reascend. I will save this for when we start reascending. I'll be quiet. Wow! Woo! We didn't blow up. Surprising, actually. Yeah, so I've now got a YouTube partner, which means I can do YouTube. I've got ads. I make money from ads. I don't actually, because for them to start paying you, you have to make enough money that they tax it. So they only start paying you as soon as you pay tax. That sounds like a pyramid scheme, if you ask me. But then again, I've always wanted to be part of a pyramid scheme. I think that'd be really fun. As long as you're at the top of the pyramid, you wouldn't be at the bottom, would you? Anyway, yeah, so I'm a YouTube partner, which means I can start YouTube memberships. I mean, I did have some stuff planned for what I would put on my YouTube membership page. I wouldn't do the early videos. I mean, yes, pay extra money so you can watch it early. I wouldn't do that because I'm patient. But then again, people might. But then again, like, the point of this channel wasn't to make money. It's to put stupid videos on the internet. People watch them and go, oh my god, this guy's terrible at science and maths. Anyway, line from Kerbal to the Mun, then from the Mun to our spacecraft from a 44.81 degree angle. Get it right. And then we need to burn for approximately 250 meters per second of delta V in order to escape the Mun's sphere of influence and get ourselves on a course which will return us to Kerbal. Yeah, that's the sign. If you are more interested, there are two videos. You can watch the video I did last week, which was quite possibly the worst video I've ever made, where I sat down and just spoke over the entire uninterrupted Mun landing to show that I didn't cheat, because somebody thought I used MechJeb. I then said, what's MechJeb? And I haven't got a response yet. I'm interested in what MechJeb is. I'm guessing it's like cheat or something. But no, I really do calculate all this. Anyway, so stuff I'm going to put on YouTube members, I would put all of the handwritten notes and calculations. I'm going to start doing streams soon. Me playing. I also, completely unrelated to my YouTube members, which I haven't decided. I'm going to put a poll in the Discord, see what people think. Join the Discord, by the way. I'll put a link in the description of this video for the Discord. I want to do a satisfactory or a Factorio series using A-level maths and statistics. Ooh, that would be quite fun. I want to find a game which I can apply statistics to, basically. And basically show you that A-level maths statistics is a thing and does work, because I hated statistics. So my least favourite topic in A-level physics was gravitational field. I hated it. Hence why I tried to do this, because I thought, well, I may as well, because I hated it, so I should make myself like it by doing it over and over again until I want to cry. I haven't quite reached that point yet, but of course we will. Then A-level statistics, I was thinking maybe we could do Factorio, but I've never played Factorio first, so maybe it's Satisfactory first, but does that really require A-level statistics? I'm not sure. No matter what, I kind of want to do this style of video with Satisfactory actually breaking down the maths, which I think would be really interesting. Let me know what you guys think about that. Or if there's any other games. I mean, what is it? Juno Space Origins. I've had that game for ages. I've had that game since it was Simple Rockets 2, and I love it. But that wouldn't get any views, hence why I do KSP. But if people are interested in that, I'd do that because there's so much more customizability. Sure, it's not as advanced as KSP. Still a really good, pretty game. But yeah, I should now stop talking about that, and I should talk about our touchdown, because this is the first time that our Soyuz-style rocket will land on land, which is actually what it's designed to do. It's designed to land in, like, Kazakhstan. Wow, this is my rocket. I can't do a good Borat. Anyway, and what you will see here is the retro rocket, and that slows us down so Jeb and Bill don't hurt their bottoms. But that is it for today's video. Thank you very, very much for watching. I really do hope you enjoyed. Make sure to stay tuned for next week, where we will be going to Minmus next week, or when the next video comes out. And it is exciting. I've started making it. It's really good. But I will see you very, very soon.